All right, let's jump right back into the wild world of Me and the Boys wrestling.
It's been a week.
It has been a wild one.
And a half, let me tell you.
Seriously, we need to unpack all this chaos. DMP's reign of terror continues. This week we saw him taking aim at Booker Man again. Poor Booker Man.
Yeah, what is it with DMP and these 3-on-1 handicap matches as punishment? I mean, it's just brutal.
It's more than winning or losing at this point, right? It feels like he's trying to make a statement.
Oh, absolutely. Like, look what I can do. Look at my power.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like this week, Booker Man had to go up against Art the Clown, Captain Spaulding, Andy, Billy the Puppet. I mean, come on. Talk about a nightmare scenario.
Oh, yeah. Ice cold, man. Ice cold. And it just leaves everyone else wondering, am I next?
Right. But, okay, it can't just be random, right? Like who he's choosing to punish, who he's choosing to fire. Do you see any kind of pattern here?
Well, I'm starting to think that there is something going on here.
It's going to lay it on me.
It's all about ambition. Think about it. Booker Man, King Robertson, what do they both have in common?
Well, they've both talked about wanting to move on from Me and the Boys wrestling.
Yeah.
Like in real life. Booker Man's got his music, and King Robertson keeps talking about the WWE.
Exactly. So maybe, just maybe, DMP sees that as a threat. Real-world success.
So he wants to keep everyone focused on the game. Or at least his vision of the game.
That's one way to look at it. Maybe it's just about power, you know, keeping everyone in line and making sure they know who's boss.
Well, King Robertson is definitely learning that the hard way. I mean, he had to face Cocaine Bear, Chucky, Andy, Freddy Krueger in his own 3-on-1 handicap match.
Oh my God, just the lineup alone is enough to give me nightmares.
Right. And then don't forget about that ref. Talk about bias. It was like watching a horror movie unfold.
Totally. And the King still managed to pull off a win, even after getting fired mid-match.
She's like, wow, okay. Talk about resilience. It's almost like DMP orchestrated the whole thing.
You never know with him. But here's one that really blew my mind. I mean, DMP fired his own right-hand man, the French lover.
What? I couldn't believe it.
Like, seriously. Remember, he was just singing the French lover's praises, calling him a champ. And then, bam, demoted back to janitor. Just like that.
And remember, this was right after that crazy triple threat match where he, Frank Weiser, and Mertz Frazier fought to a draw.
I thought for sure that was leading to something big for the French lover, but nope. DMP just pulled the rug out from under him.
So I guess loyalty doesn't count for much in DMP's world.
Apparently not. And it's not just a couple of isolated incidents anymore. I mean, we're talking more than half the roster gone at this point.
I know, right? It's wild. Like, where does it end?
Yeah, it's like he's building his own empire. But the foundation is made of fired wrestlers.
It's crazy. And everyone left is just walking on eggshells, terrified of being next.
You can practically feel the tension in the air.
So in this whole crazy situation, who's actually thriving? Well, Hunter S. Mustache seems to be doing all right.
Yeah, that's true. He's definitely on a roll.
He won that 6-man tag match with the Stroop and Marty the Magic Guy, and they were up against the Legion of Doom, no less.
That's impressive. It makes you wonder if Hunter S. Mustache is playing it smart, you know? Just keeping his head down and staying out of the line of fire.
Maybe he's the key to stopping DMP. The hero we need.
Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves, but it's interesting to see who manages to navigate this whole mess.
For sure. And speaking of interesting, DMP just announced he's doing this blockbuster interview later this week, and he's promising a special surprise just for Booker Man.
Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Knowing DMP, it's probably some kind of twisted offer.
Right, like a chance to crawl back into his good graces, or at least what DMP considers good graces.
Maybe Booker Man gets a chance to win his spot back on the roster in another 3-on-1 handicap match, of course.
Oh, definitely. Or maybe DMP just wants to humiliate him even more publicly. It's like we're watching a slow-motion train wreck.
You said it. We can't look away.
Okay, well, before we get too lost in speculation, let's talk about another match that really shook things up this week.
You know, it's crazy, right? Like, even in this virtual world, you can see how DMP's actions are affecting everyone.
It's like everyone's looking over their shoulder.
Right.
Just waiting for the axe to fall.
It creates this tension, right? You never know what's coming next.
Definitely. And think about how the French lover reacted when he got fired.
Oh, yeah.
It seemed like he was genuinely hurt, even though it's just a game.
That's the thing, though, right? Even in this virtual world,
Right.
Emotions are real, and actions have consequences.
Absolutely. Okay, well, speaking of real consequences, did you see that 10-man leftovers Royal Rumble?
Pure chaos.
Yeah.
Bodies flying everywhere, and you're not going to believe who won.
Yeah, it was insane. Hulk Steve.
I know.
Talk about a dark horse.
He entered early and just outlasted everyone, even the heavy hitters.
It's crazy. It makes you wonder if DMP is accidentally creating new stars by tearing down the old guard.
Almost like a twisted form of creative destruction, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But is it sustainable? Can he really build something new based solely on fear and intimidation?
That's the big question, isn't it? And with 2K24 right around the corner, things could get even more interesting.
Okay, yeah. That's another layer to this whole thing. A new game, a new roster, new opportunities for DMP to just
Oh, yeah.
assert his dominance.
Or new opportunities for someone else to challenge him.
That's true. Imagine the possibilities. Will he double down on being a control freak? Or will he have to adapt
Right.
to a whole new landscape?
Exactly. And we can't forget about that blockbuster interview he keeps teasing.
Oh, yeah. It's like the elephant in the room at this point.
DMP's being super secretive about the details, just saying it involves a reliable news source and a special treat for Bookerman.
Okay, so serious speculation time. What if this interview is DMP's way of trying to control the narrative?
You mean like spin all the firings
Yeah.
as part of some master plan?
Exactly. Like damage control or even propaganda. He knows how to work an audience.
Oh, absolutely. DMP is a master manipulator.
What if he uses it to announce some huge changes, like new rules that give him even more power?
It's like we're watching a political thriller unfold, you know? Except instead of a government, we've got a wrestling organization.
Run by a guy who just loves to fire people.
Pretty much, yeah. But the real question is, will anyone actually stand up to him? Is there anyone who can stop this reign of terror?
Well, we've seen some glimmers of resistance. Remember TBO and that win against 3X bits?
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was intense. And it showed that even in DMP's world, skill and strategy can still win out.
They really went at it. That move with the steel stairs was brutal.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good reminder that even with all this fear, some people are still willing to fight for what they believe in.
And maybe that's the key takeaway here. Even though DMP seems to be calling all the shots, things can still change.
Yeah, someone could step up and challenge the status quo. And that's what makes me and the boys wrestling so unpredictable and exciting.
Exactly. We're all on the edge of our seats, waiting to see who will be the next to fall or the next to rise.
And we're all just along for the ride.
Well, with that cliffhanger, we're going to leave you all hanging. All right, welcome back to the final part of our deep dive. And things are really heating up in Me and the Boys Wrestling. We've seen DMP just completely transform this organization. But with 2K24 on the horizon, there are so many questions still hanging in the air.
Yeah, it really feels like we're standing on a precipice, you know? Watching it all unfold, but with no clue what's waiting at the bottom.
Totally. Will DMP's reign of terror continue? Will someone, anyone, finally stand up and challenge him? And what about that blockbuster interview? So many questions.
Well, let's start with that interview. I mean, DMP's obviously using it to stir the pot, keep everyone guessing. But what's he really hoping to achieve? Damage control, straight up propaganda, or maybe something even more devious.
You know, it's interesting, thinking about how all this is landing with the fans. I mean, some people love the drama, right? The sheer unpredictability. But others are feeling kind of alienated. Like it's all become too much of a one-man show.
It's a tough balance to strike, right? Wrestling thrives on conflict and crazy storylines, but take it too far, make it feel too rigged or unfair, and you risk losing your audience.
Absolutely. And remember, DMP fired, like, and subscribe. The guys whose whole thing was fan interaction.
Oh, yeah.
It's like he's going out of his way to thumb his nose at the fans, daring them to turn away.
And yet they're still watching. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
DMP's created this atmosphere of fear and chaos, but it's also making everything strangely captivating.
It's a total car crash you just can't look away from.
Exactly. Speaking of captivating, though, we haven't even touched on 2K24, what that might mean for all of this.
Oh, right. New game, new possibilities.
Imagine the scenarios. Maybe DMP loses some of his power during the transition. Maybe we see some fresh faces rise up and challenge him. Or maybe
he uses the game's creation tools to make himself even more powerful, like an army of DMP clones, all totally loyal to him.
Okay, now that's a little terrifying. But seriously, 2K24 is a complete wild card. It could be DMP's chance to reassert his dominance, but on his own terms.
Or it could be the beginning of the end. If he pushes too far, alienates too many people, it could all come crashing down.
This whole thing is a fascinating study in leadership, really. When power goes unchecked, when fear becomes the driving force, what happens?
And at the end of the day, it's all about entertainment, right? Can DMP keep the fans hooked? Or will this reign of terror ultimately backfire?
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. We'll be here to break it all down for you, every step of the way.
Absolutely. So buckle up, everybody. We're in for a wild ride. And who knows what twists and turns await us in Me and the Boys Wrestling.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.